Hi all, thanks for having me. Actually, I don't think that content is dead. I think that content strategy might be dead, but content is still important. Great to see you all here. Thanks for staying, and thanks for having me here. Since I was asked to speak in a really short notice, I decided to talk something that I know well, and that is content. I really hope that my presentation will help you to invest in content alongside technology, since I see that the lack of good content is the bottleneck of growth in so many cases. And I love to hear your opinions, so you can find me in Twitter or in LinkedIn, because I don't think that we have time to share opinions after this. But to my topic. At first, I thought that I'd talk about what's wrong with the content strategy, so my topic was this. As you see, I wasn't ready to give up. But while gathering my thoughts and things that I've been doing the past couple of years, I realized that, yes, it's time to say goodbye to the content strategy. I worked over a decade with communication, marketing, design, and during the last years with content and content strategies, and still I want to talk about the death of content strategy. Let me explain you why. I will first talk a little bit about content and content strategy, then go to the reasons why I think strategy is a problematic thing, and then after that you will hear the solution I have in mind. But why content? This is the first and most important question where I always need to get back to. Why content? And here I talk mostly words, the art of writing, because I think without words it's still really hard to make sense of things. And this is a Finnish comic book, about a content producer. And although you may not understand the text, I think the message is quite clear. I think it shows in one picture how valued content really is. But the interactions we have with our customers are inherently connected to language and communication. The content is the conversation and interaction that people are having with your brand and product, the very reason they are on your site or on your app. And time is a scarcity, and we all know how little we have it. The interactions are getting shorter and fewer. And because the number of interactions you have with your customers is minimal, each of them counts. It really matters what you say, and not just what you say, but what is the context. Then why this? I have a designer background, so this is a design process. If the content is such an important part of the interactions between us humans, and with products, services, and so forth, then why is it that in most of the cases the content comes last? We design products and plan campaigns without the real content, without knowing what we really want to say and how it sounds. I call this the problem of Lorem, Ipsum. Especially in designing services, this has been a real problem, but I think we are going to right direction and have started a design with real content. But because the content is not always valued so much and it's not getting the attention that it deserves, it's maybe not fulfilling all the needs that it should be. When I talk to business owners and marketers about their content, I hear the same thing. They are not happy about their content. It is not customer-centric and it's not up to date. And why to invest in technology if the content we deliver with that technology is not top-notch? Business owners want better content, yet they don't know how to do it. So what comes up in this conversations is the need for a content strategy. Our content is not good because we don't have a strategy. So the answer to our content problems always seems to be a content strategy or not having one. People don't necessarily know what it means, but they know that if they had one, they would have better content, right? Before I'm going to talk about what's wrong with a content strategy, we need to define what it is. And Kristina Halvorsson says it this way. Content strategy is the development, planning, creation, delivery, and management of content. And I think it feels a lot. Doing all these things seem to feel a quite big mouthful to chew. A big project that needs a lot of resources and we are not quite sure what we are getting. And when we get all this done, it normally means that something has changed. Our positioning, market, our main messages, target groups, etc. And like many great strategies, when you've done it, it should be acted upon and communicated. So I say it is not the answer to the problems we face with content. And why is that? I think that content strategy does not encourage us to invest in dialogue, the conversation with our customers. A strategy is a plan you make that gets you somewhere in the future, but you cannot plan a conversation. You need to have a goal in mind. But to really have a conversation or a dialogue, you need to be open to it. You really need to jump into it and learn from it. And content strategy does not encourage us to invest in data. We all know that we need to invest in data and analytics. Yet measuring content means that you need to be willing to change things according to the things you measure. The data and customer insight should guide you, not a strategy. And dialogue and data lead us to creativity. Content strategy does not help us to be creative. Creativity needs as many boundaries as space. Does a strategy help with that? No. Some planning and guidelines help with that. But you shouldn't have boundaries too much. And what does a creativity mean? To me, it means that with data you can mostly see the challenges or bottlenecks and optimize those. But with creativity, you can find the opportunities and see outside the funnel. And I think that's the path to grow. But the ultimate problems with content strategy comes next. I think that the content strategy means so many things that it doesn't mean anything anymore. Some people think it's more like a guide that tells you what kind of content to produce and to whom. Some people think it's more like a process. And if you Google content strategy or content marketing strategy, you see what I mean. The thing that makes this complicated is probably also the fact that it's used in product design, sometimes called technical writing, and in marketing. And they can all mean different things. They can be just about a process, a marketing concept, or a channel strategy. For different people, it means different things. For different disciplines, it means different things. So content strategy does not help us to get over silos. Because it means different things to different disciplines, it does not help us to work together. What I normally see is this. They all have their own content strategies, marketing, communication, and product design. And in this case, it is normally just a process chart that is lacking the content. When it should be like this. A content strategy can be a powerful tool to guide your brand and build outstanding customer experience, but it normally is just a process chart for different disciplines. It should be part of the brand, guiding us all, but as said, it's a bit too complicated and complex for that. I think I have a better idea. In my opinion, content should be considered both from the products and from the marketing's point of view. So rather than trying to find differences, we should be looking at what we share. People, your users, don't care about channels or whether they interact with your product or read your ads, so why should you? And as we heard many times today, we need to think about the customer journey. The thing that they have in common is the customer journey. We should be working towards coherent customer experience. So as said, we should look at the customer journey together, not think so much if something belongs to marketing or design, is on site, or in products. And to be honest, this is what customer journey really looks like. We all want to be unique snowflakes, or in this case, Santa Clauses. So the customer journey is hard to model, and it requires a lot from your information systems, content management systems, and so forth. They need to enable the creative input. So what is the solution if it's not the content strategy? The two most important things when you start working with content are what do you want to say, or what do your customers need to hear, and how do you say it. So what you need is two things: vision and voice and tone. You need to have a shared vision to be able to tell where your customer's going. Where should you be going? What are the things they talk about around your product or your service? What are the things they need? What are the things they need but they don't know yet? Vision starts with customer insight, and it's a continuous work. And we all know how important this is. We all know how hard it is to get right. But in a complex world, I would rather see we talked about vision than strategy. About voice and tone, I want to say a couple of things. Some of you may have heard tone of voice used more often, but I really like that nowadays I start to see the term voice and tone used more often. It's because the voice is how you speak to your customers and users that you need to define clearly. But the tone depends on the context. You might use a different tone in customer service or in corporate messaging. And I think Facebook's content people have put it beautifully. Your way of speaking, your tone and voice is one of the key things when it comes to your brand and customer experience. And I've met global companies who have hour-long briefings on their brand, and when it comes to their voice, they say that we haven't been working on that so much. But all the attributes that describe our brand describe our voice too. So here's an example of tone and voice instruction. Would you be able to produce the text or other kinds of content according to these instructions? Me neither, nor any of my colleagues could, or they could, but we'd all interpreted these attributes differently. So when it comes to voice and tone, you need to be really specific. I think this looks better. It uses do's and don'ts and a lot of examples how you should do it. And what a surprise, I'm using Slack as an example. But they know how to make guidelines so that the content is really brilliant and coherent. So what is your next step? How do we do this at Frantic? To be able to break silos, you need a team that can work with different technologies and business functions. We think the best way to do this is to have a team that can develop the customer experience as a whole. Work with different systems and technologies, different functions of the organization, and with different partners. A multi-talent, agile team that understands the whole ecosystem and has the courage to break the silos. And content and copywriting is an essential part of this team. So my suggestion is that you invest in doing over planning. So some takeaways from my presentation. Forget content strategy, break silos, work on your customer journey together, have a joint vision, have a joint voice and tone, make sure your tech stack supports your goal, and invest in content. And don't forget that content is an important part of your design system and your brand. Thank you.